I'm producing a workshop with my guest today, Donna Evans Strauss. It's an introduction to the energy healing science developed by Barbara Brennan. Welcome, Donna.
Hi, Anand. It's great to be here with you. It's a pleasure. It's exciting for me to be able to come and teach this workshop with you and share your passion for the work with the people that you serve in your community.
Yeah, and my pleasure to have you. So I wanted to start by talking about what people can expect to receive from this workshop.
Yeah, so I've been teaching the workshop probably since the mid-90s after I graduated. And what I see people doing, which is so exciting, coming to the workshop from all walks of life, whether they're a physician or whether they're an accountant or a mom, or all different kinds of professions have some kind of experience with energy, but they don't know how to put it in context. Like they have some intuition or something going on in their life. And Barbara's book, Hands of Light, was one of the first books out there. She's a pioneer in the field to look at the human energy consciousness system and the human energy field to see how we communicate through energy. And then we do a lot of experiential exercises in the workshop so that you can start to feel the energy yourself and have those ha-ha moments. So this is really more about the you coming in and having an experience of your own energy consciousness system and all those things that you had questions about. All of a sudden you're like, wow, I can feel the field. I'm actually, when I put my hands on somebody and I do this basic healing science kind of technique called chelation, that I'm actually feeling in contact or in communion with another human being at a very profound or spiritual level, like you said, like a sacred work. And there's many exercises that go through the 2 days to give you several experiences to have like, oh, wow, this is real. You know, I can feel energy in my hands. I can feel what's going on here. So there's several of those exercises that Barbara designed, and over the years, they're tried and true.
I took the workshop myself, and I found that I had a direct experience of sensing the energy fields in a way that I had not before, and sort of an integration of mainstream and everyday kind of scientific concepts with sort of the spiritual knowing that I had also had. In addition to that, as I was reflecting on my experience taking the Hands of Light workshop, I was realizing that as I was learning these techniques for sensing the field and then for cleansing and charging of another person's field, it was also cleansing and charging my own field and helping me to sort of like expand my awareness and consciousness at a time in my life when I really needed that. It's like when you practice healing work, you end up getting the healing at the same time.
Yes. And one of the unique things with Barbara is like healer, heal thyself. So within her work, she has a lot of different exercises called Hara exercises or color breathing exercises and different exercises that the healer does to clear, charge, and balance their field. And as they do that, there is more awareness of the fields around them and more presence so that when you're in a healing, so every time you give a healing or move into this zone, you also receive a healing and more awakening in your own intuitive nature and experience as not only a physical human being, but a cosmic human being, one who has a multidimensional presence in the world, not just physical, but your physical, you have an aura, you have a Hara dimension. And one of the things I really was interested in her work is the core star dimension. She was the first person that I knew in the 1980s to start speaking to us about that dimension and how that is our divine right to reclaim within ourselves. And that's where we heal from.
So I'm curious, Donna, how did you encounter Barbara Brennan's work? originally, and what drew you to it?
Um, well, I was having, like many people in the 80s and early childhood, like I was very curious why I knew things about people I shouldn't know. And things would just happen. And also, I was very intrigued by prayer because one time when I was really young, I prayed for some people, this person in the juvenile center, and within moments, something happened after that. So it piqued my curiosity. I wasn't a religious person or anything like that. I thought, ooh, might be woo-woo or whatever, and I wasn't psychic, but I was really curious. How does this communication, what's happening here, work? And then I was at Hahnemann University Medical School studying psychology, and I still had that curiosity about, like, how do people heal? So I was constantly asking myself, how do people heal? And one night I said a prayer. I would love to go to the top healing school. I didn't even know if there was one. And this is in 1987. And I kissed my husband goodnight and I went to sleep. And a couple of weeks later, I'm in a rock and gem store, Henry Rock and Gem store in Pennsylvania, off of 611 in Warrington. And I'm visiting Hetty, and there's a man in there. Later, I found out his name was Tad McKeon, but anyway, he was in a wheelchair. And I remember walking in there to talk to Hetty, and I saw him in that wheelchair. And I thought in my mind, I wonder if he can get up and walk. And I'm like, Donna, do not talk to the man in the wheelchair. Do not ask him to get up and walk. Your curiosity about healing has gone a little bit too far. So I left. I said, bye, Hetty. And I left. And 2 days later, I was at the library. And I took a class in the evening that was all about trying to understand psi research and everything else. And this man rolled in the wheelchair into the class. And he actually gave me Barbara's Hands of Light. It's over here on the show. Her hardback copy that she published. She took $50,000 of her own money to get it published, that nobody would publish it at the time. And after she published it, Bantam published it. But he handed me a copy and had seen her in New York City. And so when I looked at that hardback copy, in the back, there was a picture of her, and it had a phone number that they might have classes. So I called that number just spontaneously. And next thing I know, I was in Montauk doing an introductory class, a Hands of Light workshop, which you're getting ready to teach in your region. That brought me to that work. It was so exciting, and it was something different than the field of psychology, because at the time I was at Hahnemann, they were moving from Freudian psychology to humanistic psychology, and the school was in this flux. And people would always tell me, oh, you need to lay on the couch and do this Freudian, free association and all that stuff. And then I would go to this workshop, and then I would see people laying on a healing table and having these deep, profound experiences. And I was like, wow. And then I would try to go and talk to my professor about it. And they were not ready for this transmission or change, where psychology was moving more towards the fourth force of psychology, which was transpersonal psychology. And so I was right in the forefront of that, but it was through prayer. And that's why I was always curious about, how does prayer work? You say something and something happens. I meet this person, he hands me a book, and Jung called that synchronicity, but now we know that we're all connected by this infinite intelligent field, that when we put our consciousness into it and ask for something, the field responds to us. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't have any more special powers than anybody else. Everybody is in this web of life, and that we put positive things in, there's a response. Sometimes the response is immediately or within a couple of weeks, and sometimes the response may not be for months. But guarantee, when you put your hopes or your dreams or your desires, and you have a pure heart with those, the universe responds to you. Mm-hmm. And that changed my life.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that I've definitely picked up as I have been practicing and learning energy healing is that I have become more sensitive to those moments of awareness of that web of life you were just talking about, whether it's like noticing random, thoughts that might just sort of pop into my head, or the gut feelings that kind of like are there with us really every day, and a lot of times we just kind of tune them out in our busyness. But becoming more and more aware of those sensations has has really allowed me to I guess tap into a deeper wisdom, kind of like you were just talking about, that wisdom of being connected to the greater whole.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, and as you kind of, you have these experiences, but when you come to school, and like you said, you start to develop your high sense perception, which was a word that she coined instead of being psychic. We have different sensory perceptions, like our kinesthetic. Some people are much more kinesthetic and feel things with their hands. And then some people are empathic and feel emotional bodies, or sometimes feel overwhelmed by emotions. And then others may be intuitive. They just that, oh, take the umbrella today, it might rain. Well, it's not raining outside, but take it anyway. And then you find out where you get to where you're going, it's raining. So, you have this intuition, or you have a heartfelt sense about something. You feel something in your heart, like somebody's mourning, or somebody's feeling something from your heart, or this deep, profound sense of love. Or sometimes people say, oh, I hear something. I heard some kind of guidance. Not it could be someone talking, or just I got an impression of a voice telling me something. And this is, sometimes in the field of psychiatry that can be disconcerting, because somebody goes, oh, if you're hearing voices back in the day in the 80s, then you needed to be on medication. But now we know that there's all these different levels of consciousness and multi-dimensions that we have access to when you open your field and open your chakra system. And then you also have your vision. Some people see things. You could be at a conference and you see a glowing light around someone. Or one time I was working at the dual diagnosis unit in Horsham Clinic, and with a gentleman that had an addiction. He was standing in the hall, and I remember I was in year 2 at Barbara Brennan, and he had this big black glob on his head, on his neck. And I kept looking at that glob, and I thought, well, if that glob would move, but I couldn't talk to the psychiatrist or the healing team that, hey, he has something in his field that's really attached to his neck, and has him, kind of in his addiction. And I think it's part of it. So some people may see something. I don't see things all the time, but then that moment I saw that. And we do work at school with opening your vision and how you see something. And then somebody has it like a direct knowing, meaning like all of a sudden, you were thinking about this person you haven't talked to in 5 months, and all of a sudden they come into your mind and they call you. You have this direct connection that they thought about you, and I know, oh, the phone just rang and they're here. Or I have a direct knowing I need to turn down this road and not go that road, and maybe there was an accident on that road. So we teach all those different HSP exercises to open your awareness, and also to heal your trauma, because sometimes your trauma has something to do with how you see the world, or how your high sense perception may be skewed a bit based upon early childhood experiences or traumatic experiences that you've had in your life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And one of the things that I have really appreciated about the Barbara Brennan School and the way that this work is taught is that it's done with a lot of compassion and a lot of awareness for the discomfort that can also be felt, because, like as we are sort of venturing into this mysterious sort of territory consciousness and psychic abilities, it can really bring up, I think, a lot of fears for people, because it's not something that most of us are aware of on a day-to-day basis. So there's a lot of like compassion in the way that the teaching is conveyed, and also within this Hands of Light workshop, I know that there's like a gentleness to the teaching and sort of like a pace, so that not only are we learning the techniques for doing the healing work, but it's sort of like we have time to sort of be aware of how that work is affecting us and what it's bringing up in ourselves to be healed and to be known.
Mhm. Yes, and this was one of the most surprising things for a participant in the beginning. I know it was for me, like I didn't know I had different blocks in my field when I went to this Hands of Light workshop. I went for excitement to know, how does the universe work? I had no idea I would be working on myself. And so as we're doing some of the exercises, whether it's color breathing and some of them that charge and balance the field, what normally will happen, the more energy and consciousness you have moving through your field, you'll hit a block. And it's that block may have been there and you buried that a long time ago. It was something, some story, something, whatever. And all of a sudden, energy is pushing it up to the surface. And you're like, whoa, what's happening? You might start to tear up or something might happen. Well, we're very aware of those moments when that happens, and we give space for that, and actually let people know that that's not an unusual occurrence. As you start to clear, charge, and balance your own field, you become a more clear, charged, coherent field for when you're working with your clients. But we don't know that walking in. You're like, why am I getting ready to cry? Why is this exercise bringing up something? So there is a lot of care, a lot of space and patience and awareness that might happen in a room. That might happen to somebody who attends the workshop because they're unaware that something is lying dormant somewhere. And as you bring more energy to it, it highlights it, rather than people used to say, oh, you provoked me. And I always say, what's the evocation that just happened in this moment? What healing moment is happening? How are you becoming more of who you are in this moment?
Okay, is there anything else that you wanted to share or say about this Hands of Light workshop?
The workshop is not about all the curriculum and learning all the details of everything. It's about the participants having their own experience and enjoying themselves and exploring, like, oh, what is this energy consciousness? How does it work in me? And having those aha moments. It's not about so much about our teachership. It's really about the participants enjoying the experience and having this place that they can share themselves and say, yes, energy is real.
Right. Yeah.
Real. Yeah.
Awesome. Beautiful. Well, thank you, Donna.
Well,
Um,
thank you.
so Donna and I will be in Charlottesville this coming January 27th and 28th, 2024. And we would love for you to join us if you would like to take a step into the world of energy science and energy medicine.
Yes. I'm looking forward to being with you,
Me
and
too.
let's have
All
a
right.
great time.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Donna.